ideas are great. Just spend a few minutes figuring out how is it going to make money and how can you actually bring it to life. And if you just every day take it one more step, then either it's going to die because it's not a good idea or it's going to turn into something.
Because entrepreneurship is a mind game. Welcome to Built4Profit Podcast, where entrepreneurs share real stories and strategies that actually work. We're here to inspire, challenge, and give you the playbook to profit with purpose. Let's get into it. Let's do it. Entrepreneurs love intensity and they love to just go all in, usually full force. And I think it's going to be interesting in today's conversation, the alignment and maybe some of the shifts that we can see with the type of workout brand that we have and the way that we could approach business in a little bit different way, a smarter, maybe more calm type of approach. This is what I picked up on.
That's going to be crazy.
Brand.
Okay. Lots of pressure on this new guest.
I know. Yes. So we've got Lindsay Cohen with us from Pvolve. So Lindsay, we're thrilled to have you. Welcome to the Built4Profit Podcast.
Welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you both.
Yeah. And so when we were looking at Pvolve, this is one of the things that we were both grasping from it. And I'm going to let you explain it so that I'm not putting words in your mouth. But it is, you can say, a more calm and peaceful type of workout. You tell us, Lindsay.
Yeah. I think that's interesting that that's what you picked up on. So this is all great feedback. It is still relatively, early days for the franchising of this business. Pvolve started as an online workout. It's been around since 2017, but they've just been expanding into franchises in like the last 2 years, really. So the first franchise was out in the San Diego area, and now we're up to, I think, the 31st studio to open. So it's been, a quick trajectory. And I think that our brand identity is still evolving, if you will. And I think it's great to know that you picked up on there being some calmness, because I think what's interesting as a studio owner is that people come into the studio not really knowing what to expect. And their first bit of feedback, and this is where I'm going to tie it all into what you said, Elizabeth, is that it was much more intense than they thought it was going to be. So I think that is honestly such interesting feedback.
Yeah.
And I can see now why people come in and leave the studio shocked at how intense the workout was, because I think while it is low impact, the intensity of it is quite high.
This makes more sense in, what we would normally think of as a workout. Like there is a line that you have to kind of get to for your workout to be hitting your cardiovascular system. So this is a much clearer explanation of low impact, but still high intensity, effective.
That's correct.
Type workout.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes, exactly right. I think as far as what is Pvolve, it's a functional fitness workout that's done in a boutique fitness setting. And so what that means is that if you think about it in just everyday terms, the way that I like to think of it is that it's preemptive physical therapy in a boutique fitness setting. So really we're training our bodies so that they're stronger, that you're more mobile, you're more stable every day, and especially as you age, and especially for us women as we age, because our bodies go through unique processes that men don't face. And so those unique processes, there's real impact to our physical body, whether it's our bones, our joints, our overall muscle tone, all of that changes so drastically at various points in women's lives, right? So think about, I don't know if you have children, but like when you're pregnant, what that does to your body, or the postpartum, what that does to your body. Basically all the times that your hair grows a lot and falls out a lot, those are all unique to women, right? And those multiple cycles of that, I'm learning now as I'm in my middle 40s. So I think that Pvolve is really designed with that in mind. Men can utilize Pvolve also because, again, it's designed to help you.
That's a good question. Is it only for women or is it for men also?
It is for men also. Yeah. I will say that it's predominantly women that come to our studio, but we definitely have the supportive spouse, the supportive partner. We have a few men that are independently coming to the classes. I think that there is, because functional fitness is still relative, it's not new. Functional fitness has been around since the beginning of time. So functional fitness, not new. As a workout modality, it is relatively new. It is the beginning of what Pvolve thinks is a necessary shift in trends in the fitness space to be kinder to your body and more responsive to your body and doing things that are actually going to help you and not just arbitrarily working muscle groups, if you will, or not arbitrarily, but just doing it more for aesthetic purpose.
Yeah. Lindsay, how did you pick Pvolve? You're the 31st franchisee. So it was
something along those lines. Yes.
All right. We'll land it and say in the general neighborhood of beginnings and functional fitness. Like I never even heard of that until today. How did you go, I'm going to go find a franchise brand with functional fitness and that's just launching?
I will tell you, it is just like the rest of my career path. It has been a very winding journey. So
Lindsay,
bear
we're
with
not
me. I'll
joking.
try to make it brief and exciting. When I was 40, I decided I'm going to start running half marathons because why not? I was the kid in gym class growing up who would, call in sick the day of the mile run. And I hated running. And I said, I'm 40. It's time to do something and push myself. So I ran two. And as I was training for the second one, my body just hurt really badly. And I went to my doctor and he was like, well, you're just putting too many miles on your body. And I'm like, I don't think I am. Like, I think that like human bodies are supposed to be able to run half marathons. And I'm not trying to run it. I'm trying to jog it. I'm trying to, half jog, half walk. And it was still an excruciating pain in my lower back, my knees, my hips. And the doctor's like, just stop running. I didn't really love that diagnosis, if you will. And so when I was at the gym, I was introduced to a trainer there and he specialized in functional fitness for runners. And he did these exercises with me that I thought were just bizarre. I'm not doing deadlifts. I'm not doing, curls. I'm not doing the regular activities. And he basically showed me through functional fitness that the problems were in my hips, that they were too tight. So I learned about functional fitness a couple of years ago and I was all on board with it. And it really just changed my body. And I just needed to live on a cocktail of muscle relaxers, which is no way to live. And so I knew about functional fitness. I was all bought into it. And I was at my last job. I was a COO at a corporate gifting company and we were going out to Denver. And I was looking for a boutique fitness class to try with my coworkers. And I just looked up boutique fitness near Denver. And what do you know? One of the early Pvolve franchises was in Denver. So I found Pvolve that way. And I was smitten with the concept of it. And I decided to reach out to learn more. And there you have it. I was really excited about the idea of bringing Pvolve to my neighborhood so that I could have it. So really, I was intrigued from a business model perspective because fitness is very entrenched in the franchise universe. There's an established path for what to do with these businesses. I was really excited about the opportunity. It seemed like it was the right time and the right place, but really it was selfish. I really wanted it for myself. I wanted to go to a Pvolve class and I am not great at working out at home. I have all the toys in my basement. I love the community aspect. I love being in person. I love having a trainer in person motivating me. So it was really selfish that I did it to open it for myself.
Yeah. And they're like, hey, I love this thing. I want to bring it in my neighborhood and utilize it. Yeah. I think those are selfishly the ones that we like the most. People join specifically franchise for a variety of reasons, right? It can be like it had the amount of time I wanted or had the right investment amount I was looking for. And those are all important, but those all came from passions. Love just hearing one like you just shared, Lindsay, where you're like, I loved it so much. I want to be able to offer it to my community.
Yeah. And I think that's actually like true across the network with Pvolve and that everyone who's a franchise owner is really, really bought into Pvolve and also really selfishly wanted to bring it to their communities. Yeah. It's been just amazing.
Yeah. And now if we're not, because obviously we aren't, and I did look to see if there was one near us and there is one downtown, but is there still an online component?
There is.
There was. Okay. Can you break that down?
Yeah, of course. So pvolve.com is the website. There's an amazing online network of videos. There's over 1,200 workouts to do. The equipment is affordable and it is very portable. So you can easily put it in just a little basket and have it tucked away. It's really easy to use at home. You can filter the different workouts that you want to do. You can filter based on the trainer that you like the best. You can filter based on how much time you have, what muscle group you want to work, what format of class. So it's a really great online platform. And all of our in-studio memberships also come with the online platform. So we have a lot of people that go, a couple of times a week or once a week in the studio, and then they do the rest of their workout at home.
So Lindsay, you're like, I love this idea. I'm going to go into franchising. Tell us about this transition that you told everybody, listen, I'm going to quit my corporate job. What was the transition like and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thank you for asking. I think my career has been a winding path in different ways. I've started my own businesses before from just like an idea stage and I just built it all from scratch. And so for me, we had just recently sold a chunk of the business to private equity, finally had some sort of little, liquidity event. And I was trying to figure out what to do with the proceeds. And the obvious answer, if you ask ChatGPT, is, put it in an index fund. And And I thought, well, that's boring. That's letting other people have fun with my money and figure out, the betas of the stocks and figure out the optimal portfolio. I wanted to have fun with that. And I wasn't just going to go buy a couple of handbags. So I decided it would be a fun path to be able to take my money and invest it in a business, but have some control and be able to do something fun. And for me, being able to grow and operate a business, I've determined is really fun for me. And so, my husband was super supportive of this idea. It seemed, a lot less risky than me just going and trying to start something from scratch. And so instead of starting something from scratch, which is what I had done in the past, or, joining an unproven startup, which is something else I had done in the past, I was very fortunate. My last company that I joined was already profitable. So that wasn't like joining a startup where you're hoping and counting the number of days of runway you have left. We were profitable. It was a great business, but this was a lot less risky than things I had done in the past. It was almost like surprising to people that I decided to do the franchise thing as opposed to going and starting my own thing again. But I'm not closing the door on that. One day I still can do that, but I really wanted to take something and make something of this liquidity, the return that I generated from my last company.
This is so impressive. First of all, congratulations on something which is a lot of people's dreams, let alone selling it, which is a lot of other people's dreams, and then starting something over. So that's just amazing. So great job for you, Lindsay. It lets me know you have a mindset that is different than most. So I would really like to hear you talk about what kind of mindset did you have going into it, or what are you saying to yourself as you're starting these new things?
Feel confident that I'm good at, and I remind myself of what I don't know, that someone does know that. And so that there are people around, there are resources that I have to get help when I need it. And that I'm not just, flailing in the universe all alone out there trying to, figure out how to invent the wheel or start fire. So I think that that's like, those are the two things that I really focus on from a mindset perspective. The third thing that I like to tell myself all the time is that nothing's permanent. I think it's a Buddhist philosophy, but it really, truly helps. And that any decision that I make that, not to be morbid, but there's really only one that's very final, right? It's true. Like you can, just because I decide that I want to, be a franchise, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? The worst thing that happened is that the money goes away, and money can go away. I'll still be here. My family will still be here. We'll just have to make different choices and make different plans, and we'll be able to adapt. So I think it is the idea of not necessarily, I think it's resilience in some capacity and just being very intentional about it and being aware of it and knowing it's a choice that I'm making so that I don't feel like, I try never to be caught like unprepared, and I always kind of hope for the best and plan for the worst, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I have one follow-up question. So this time around, you've got your past success to go off of. I'm not saying to build your resume, but mentally, you know what you've done. And so for a lot of the listeners, they haven't had a successful business in the past, and they likely have not sold a business, like built it and scaled it to that type of caliber. So how were you talking to yourself the first time?
That's a great question because it's very different. The first time that I started a company, I had just had a conscious uncoupling. Remember when that was like a funny thing? A conscious uncoupling from my employer. We both realized that it was not time for a director of marketing. They needed a director of sales, of which I wasn't. And so I had a nice little soft landing from that company. And I decided, you know what, now's the time. I'm going to start my first business. My husband was in law school. Law school students don't get paid very well. And we, did not have any other source of income. I was the primary income earner, and we had a 10-month-old baby. That first time around, it was really just shooting for the stars and hoping for the best. And in that situation, we just made do. We defined an amount of money that we were willing to release out into the ether from our savings. And we said, if we can make do until X date without me paying myself, and we expend Y dollars on my startup idea, we can make a go of it. So basically what I did was I created a structure for myself the first time around. I set those guidelines, I set those parameters so that I had the conversation with my husband and we said, like, this is a joint decision. This is the amount of money. This is the amount of time. And we figured out how to make it work. And so that business, I had the idea for it in May. I was generating revenue from it in August, and I sold it by Thanksgiving. It was wild. And the reason that it was able to happen was that I had set up these parameters customers. And I said, well, I'm not able to pay myself what my market rate is by the time October 1st hit, which was my threshold that we had set at the very onset. And so I said, well, if I'm not able, based on the revenue coming in, the profitability of the business, to be able to pay myself a market rate, and I don't see that happening without making another investment in the business, then I need to figure out how to get myself paid. And it was still doing really well. And so the best option, the best alternative available to me was to sell to a strategic partner. And sure enough, it worked. I sold the business and then they hired me as the general manager. And there I was, a few months later making, market salary. And so it was really just because I had set up times for myself and realized I didn't have as much of a, personal runway as I would have had my partner been working, or if I'd had more in savings, or if I didn't have a 10-month-old baby. So yeah, that was how I did it the first time.
I really like that because so much fear and uncertainty around starting a business and going into entrepreneurship. And it sounds like you took as much certainty as you could and fear out of it as you could. Not that you didn't, I'm sure, have your moments, especially doing it in a family.
Yep.
So you have most of your
Yes.
entrepreneurial journey has been in a family setting.
Oh yeah. I didn't start my first company until that was my first one. So he was 10 months old. I went to business school and I got my MBA with like an entrepreneurship focus. And so I actually had looked at starting my own business before I went to business school, but I didn't really have all my ducks in a row, if you will, mentally to do it.
Wow. Because entrepreneurship is a mind game.
It really truly is, and the up is great and the down is really, really tough. And then everything in between is really tough, right? So it's every day is a bit of a different struggle.
Yeah. And, one of the reasons that we love the franchise system is because of the structure, the playbook, we
Yes.
call it. It's there. Doesn't mean you don't have to do a lot of work, because it does.
Yes.
But some of those just guidelines are there for you. So talk about that, Lindsay.
Yes.
Like, I'm sure you experienced that firsthand, but for anyone listening, that's powerful because you've been on both sides, and a lot of people are coming from corporate and just going into a franchise, but you know what the other side really looks like.
I am such a fan of the franchise model, having experienced the corporate world, having experienced starting things up from scratch, having experienced the venture-backed world. Gosh, the franchise world is really like the best of both worlds. It's amazing to walk into something and someone else has already established product market fit. You're not flailing it. You know that people want this. You see that people want this other places. So that's amazing. And the playbooks are unbelievable. I think, especially for a brick and mortar, I think it's so important and such a value add. Even just having a commercial real estate agent that understands your business, that can vouch for you and vouch for the concept with the different landlords helps get better real estate than you would get on your own. And that in this business, with a brick and mortar business, the real estate is so important. And so having all of that information and then, having all of the playbook on construction, this was the first time I ever came this close with commercial construction. I'd done some commercial construction in the past, but this was the first time it was my money that I was spending on construction. The numbers get high kind of fast and you start looking at like, gosh, I'm spending a lot of money on lighting and this in the studio here, but my poor dining room is missing a chandelier. So it's been great to have that. I think that it's also amazing to work with a franchise partner, the franchisor that understands local market dynamics and how different local markets respond differently to different marketing, for instance. And I think that one of the things that I've realized that's been important in a franchisor that I didn't realize before getting into all this was how important that flexibility and the ability to be a good listener really truly is. And so I feel I've been really lucky to happen into that with Pvolve. The team at Pvolve has been so amazing at being responsive and taking the playbooks they've delivered to us is really like, here's the starting point. Do this and evolve and make it better and do what you need to do in your local market. And we're happy for you and we'll support you in whatever way we can. So that's been such a great side effect of all this that I didn't realize would be so important.
Yeah. So you're all in. I mean, you're not only going one, Pvolve, you're going to double down on this, right? What has surprised you the most at this stage in your journey? Like you got a baby business on the ground over there and you're already planning the next one.
Yeah. I mean, what surprised me the most is how great it is to be so present in my local community. So I didn't really truly appreciate, I wanted this to happen, right? Like I wanted to, instead of focusing on my career on tech and the internet, I really wanted to spend my time in the real world. I wanted this, but I didn't realize how great it was going to feel to walk into the studio on a given day and see my dentist, see a friend of a neighbor and have my kids' teachers, and they leave and they're feeling so energized and they feel so grateful and so happy. And it's just been such a wonderful feeling to be able to participate in a much more active way in my local community and be a small business owner locally, especially for a business where it serves as a community center, a gathering point for a lot of people.
So you are an owner operator. You're in the daily business.
I have a great team. So they're doing the day-to-day of the business. I really just go in to work out now at this point, which has been really nice.
That is really nice. Where's the second location going to be, Lindsay?
That's a great question. That's going to be a data-driven decision. So I'm looking at what the radius is of our current customer base and trying to serve them as much as possible. So I think, we do have a number of members who are, driving a little bit further than the bell curve suggests they should. So to me, that speaks to opportunity. So I think I'd like to, look at the data and see where that is. Also look at the competitive data. There are a number of really interesting and really community-focused boutique fitness studios. And I'd like to make sure that they maintain their markets and to not disrupt those markets that are already there.
And, we know that you have a family. So we definitely understand that balancing, as Shay always says, because it's never balanced. We wish it was. It's not.
It's an ing word, that's for sure.
So how has that affected your family, seeing entrepreneurship from you and just experiencing it?
Yeah. I mean, I have 3 boys. They're 16, almost 14, and 10 now. And so throughout their entire lives, I've been, I've always worked, but I've definitely gone in and out of the entrepreneurship focus. And I'll say that the group of people that were the most, quote unquote, disappointed that I didn't just start my own business after leaving my last company and went the franchise route instead were my boys. They were really excited about the idea of me starting something new. I'd been talking to them about ideas in the past. And so they really wanted to see me bring one of those to life. But then when they saw the brick and mortar, I took them through all the construction this time around. They love it. And so they're really excited about it. I've always tried to make them part of my career. I think this is part of like the balancing and juggling. Like, can't decide between chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry ice cream, buy the Neapolitan. So I think it's the same type of mentality where all of my boundaries when it comes to my kids are blurred. So even when I had that 10-month-old, I think the biggest work peak that I had from an entrepreneurship perspective was when I was pregnant with my second and the first few months of his life. He came with me to business meetings. I was wearing him. I was toting him around in a car seat in the stroller attachment. So it's always just been a matter of just including them however I possibly can. So whether it's going and helping me tear down an event display or it's helping me figure out where, what would make a good location to open for the Pvolve, engaging them in the conversations has been really important. I think that it's also important to prioritize the few things for me that I've had to make me keep my sanity. So sleep has always been my number one thing. I freak out about not getting enough sleep, and I did when the kids were babies too. That would always be the one thing that I did for myself. So I think having the time, the non-negotiable for myself was important to keep my own personal sanity, trying to include the kids as much as I could so that I felt good about it. But I think that what I like the most about it is that I grew up in a family where my dad worked blue collar jobs and my mom stayed home with us. And so I really thought that the only career options for me were like doctor, mailman, fire person, right? Like I didn't realize there was this whole world of entrepreneurship. It was not something that was present in my life. And I love being able to show my kids that you can chart your own path and you can really make your passion, your career.
How did that open for you, Lindsay? Because you said you got your MBA and focused on entrepreneurship. So obviously the door opened at some point.
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. I don't know exactly like what that point in time was for me. I know that I was working as an actuary when I first graduated college, a very random.
You are a winding.
It's been so strange. So I started as an actuary and I just did not like it. I did not like that job. And so I read this book called What Color is Your Parachute?
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have read it, but I think that that's one of like 2 points in time that like I had this very introspective moment. And it was through reading that book of realizing that there's a whole lot of different ways that you can figure out your career path. And you need to figure out like really what, motivates you and inspires you. And it was through, I think, reading that book and talking to just a lot of different people that I hadn't spoken to before, like different types of like life coaches and career coaches, that I realized that entrepreneurship was even a path. And so then I started doing, the research around it. And I started researching franchising when I was in my mid-20s, but the cash strapped aspect of that time frame didn't let me do that.
Hey, when that happens. And
Yeah.
interesting, Lindsay, because I think a lot of people have that fire, that fuel of, I really have an idea or I want to go have my own business. There's a lot of, like I said, fear and uncertainty around it. And yet you went forward with it. What is a really good piece of advice you would share with someone? Because most of our listeners are, like I said, in those stages somewhere of either thinking about it, they're getting educated on brands as we visit, they're in the throes of it. So this is the wisdom moment from Lindsay, right?
Oh gosh, just do it. I think that's the secret to all of this, right? Is like, if you have an idea and you want to go for it, go for it. I think, figure out, like, get out an Excel spreadsheet and figure out how much it's going to cost. And if the maths, then go for it. Do it.
On my words. Lindsay, you're my girl.
Yeah, I feel it. It's great.
'Cause the numbers tell a story.
They really truly do. I like to think that I have all sorts of amazing ideas on a daily basis. So I used to just like call my husband and Brian, like, listen to this. This is a great idea. And he's like, uh-huh. And then I'm like, why isn't he excited about it? And then I would just curiously, do the back of the envelope math. And it's like, oh, because it's not going to make money. Like, that's why. Like, what's the business model? How do I make money here? And so I think that's actually, maybe that's the actual granule of advice is ideas are great. Just spend a few minutes figuring out how is it going to make money and how can you actually bring it to life. And if you can get that far, you don't have to write a whole business plan. Like, I'm not saying go and get an SBA loan tomorrow. I'm saying just put some numbers together, put a process together. Ask ChatGPT. Those little baby steps are really important. And you don't have to actually, like, just doing it doesn't mean quitting your job and dumping your life savings into the unknown. Just doing it means just take it one more step. And if you just every day take it one more step, then either it's going to die because it's not a good idea or you can't operationalize it. It's going to die because you're not that excited about it after all. Something else grabbed your attention, or it's going to turn into something.
How are you using AI in your business right now?
So right now I'm using a lot for social media and trying to help me figure out what are some good hooks, because I'm a dinosaur and nothing I think is cool anymore. And so I can't embarrass myself on social media with my own brain. So I asked ChatGPT to be cool for me, basically. I also will use ChatGPT to help with process. So creating standard operating procedures to make sure the studio is running more efficiently. So I think that's probably the two most ongoing uses. But, I used it for everything from plugging my lease into it and asking for some free legal advice and then taking that to a lawyer with some, at least some basic understanding, as opposed to having them explain things to me for $500 an hour.
Yeah. I think it's a great resource to utilize for small businesses to give them more time back.
Yes. So much time. I mean, within an hour with the right prompts, I was able to generate a social media content calendar for a month. It's absolutely wild.
Yep. Well, Lindsay, as we close out, first of all, I have learned so much and you're quite the inspiration story.
Yes.
That's so nice.
As we close out, any last thoughts you want to share about you, Pvolve, or anything?
Yeah. So I think that the idea of being able to own a business about something that in an industry that I'm really passionate about and with a product that I found that I've actually loved has been such a life-changing experience for me. I really loved the last company that I was at, and I've loved every company that I've worked at, and I've loved almost every single product that I've worked with. But getting a chance to do this through franchise has been such an amazing experience. I can't speak more highly of it. I've been trying to get all of my friends and family involved in franchising because I just think it's been such a gratifying experience in so many ways. Being able to have other people and have a community of other franchise owners takes away the hardest part of being an entrepreneur that I think people don't talk about as much. I think thinking about how lonely it can be as an entrepreneur and having the community has just been amazing. Just having someone who really understands uniquely what you're going through and, you can call for advice or even call just to vent about things. Why isn't this working the way that I thought it was going to? I thought this would be better. I'm surprised this isn't selling as well as it was going to, we thought it was going to, or how do you get your windows cleaned? Those little things, it really makes a big difference. And I really think that really reflecting, this was like my second big career moment where I just sat and did a bunch of thinking about myself and what I really wanted out of my career and what I wanted to be doing with my time. So I think that I was thinking too much about about a career and not thinking so much about my time. And when I thought more about how I wanted to spend my time, that really helped me get to this place and get to this decision. Is it fun to have an idea that changes the world? Of course, yes. But is it also really fun to take someone else's idea that you think is a great idea and bringing it to a bunch of people? That's also amazing. And so it's not as glamorous as starting your own business or doing something venture backed. It is way more rewarding than I ever thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're passionate about it. And also that minimizes risk a little bit, having a tried and true recipe.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, the risk minimization given the capital expenditure is amazing.
So, Lindsay, we are excited to see where the new location is going to be. But for those of you in the Chicago area, please drop in. If you want more information about Pvolve, because we're learning things about functional fitness, that is my word of the day today.
I'm ready to sign up.
There you go. Go check it out in the show notes. Appreciate you, Lindsay. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are proud that today's episode was brought to us by Imperial Design and Display.
You know, Elizabeth, when you walk into a retail store and you see all the products, the merchandise, the racks, all that good stuff.
Yes, everything that distracts me.
There you go. That's what Imperial Design and Display does. They're a U.S. manufacturing company, which big for me, all right, made in the USA. They do everything from design, installation to program management. They get it done.
Yeah, and the caliber of brands that they work with is very impressive. Not trying to be a name dropper.
Drop some names.
Here we go. We're talking GameStop, Williams-Sonoma, Best Buy, Home Depot, Caribou Coffee, and some high caliber brands.
Right. And not only do they make it look good, it's functional and they're cost conscious.
Which we love. So we are proud to have them as one of our sponsors for the Built4Profit podcast. That is Imperial Design and Display.
And Elizabeth, I have to give a little shout out. I love a good tagline. They have a good tagline. Let's move at the speed of retail together. So imperialdesigndisplay.com and click on the link to get more information about Imperial Design Display.
We'll see you in the next episode.